So you don't want to go into the episode just right off the bat. You want to have a cold open at least, something to talk about that eases the audience into the episode.
That's one train of thought, yeah, or
It is
one school of
so
thought.
friggin' cold here. Like, it is actually legitimately cold. And I say that as someone who grew up in Buffalo.
So, given the temperatures outside now, you might be okay with foregoing a cold open and just saying, "Hi, I'm Jack."
I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are Glib Shark. If you are hearing the sound of my voice, you made it, my friend. You are now safely in the nestles of 2017. Not that a unit of time can hurt you, except for the 1993, which I heard was covered in diamond-tipped razor blades. But we can get into all that in a bit and talk about what's going on. And Jonathan has a ton on his mind, and I'm looking forward to yielding the floor to him. But first, as always, or at least as often as we can, we have the lovely, the talented, the amazing Oboe Crazy here to do a little something that we call This Week in Geek. How are you, Lauren?
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! It's the first This Week in Geek for 2017, and I think I've got a little bit of everything. So, the new year, of course, brings new beginnings, and that's going to be true for SpaceX. That's a return to flight after a 5-month dry spell. The dry spell was due, of course, to the Falcon 9 explosion that happened on Cape Canaveral on September 1st of last year. And hopefully the investigation into that is over. They've made the necessary adjustments and changes, and the company is eyeing a January 8th launch for the first launch of 2017. So for those that don't remember, the Falcon 9 rocket was loaded with $95 million worth of internet satellite, and it exploded into a giant fireball last fall. It made the rocket go away. It made the satellites go away. It made part of Cape Canaveral Space Launch Complex 40 go away. It was kind of amazing and disheartening and horrific. Fortunately, as far as I know, no one was hurt. It was just a lot of stuff blew up. SpaceX finally released the nitty-gritty details on what went wrong. You can go to their website or to a bunch of different websites and read all of the details. The company does report that it's taken all of the corrective actions it can for, quote, all credible causes of failure and focus on changes which avoid the conditions that led to those credible causes, end quote. In other words, hey, these were the reasons we think this rocket might have failed, and we fixed them. Having concluded the investigation into what Elon Musk described as SpaceX, quote, most difficult and complex failure yet, end quote, the company is targeting next week for a return to flight. And if things continue to go well, we're going to see them launching a lot more, especially out of Kennedy Space Center, a bunch of different NASA facilities, including Cape Canaveral, Vandenberg, and a new site in South Texas. So hopefully that whole incident is behind us and we can move on to happier things. Which, spaceflight is happy. So for those of us that survived 2016, there was a lot of talk about artists, actors, musicians, famous people dying. And I know that 2017, nobody really wants to talk about more people dying. But I think this is more a little bit of a celebration. Did we talk about Tyrus Wong last week? I don't remember.
No.
Okay. So there is an artist who used to work for Disney. His name was Tyrus Wong. He's actually pretty much the guy who created the signature art style behind Bambi. So if you've ever seen Bambi, which some of our audience might be too young to have seen Bambi, you definitely want to watch it. It's definitely one of the more stylistic, artistic pieces that Disney has put out there, especially the forest scenes. So Tyrus Wong is the guy responsible for that. You may not have heard his name, but he's worked on a bunch of stuff. He unfortunately passed away. He was 106, which is kind of amazing. He leaves behind a legacy as one of the most celebrated Chinese American artists in history, and has kind of this fascinating history with especially Disney. He was a studio artist, painter, printmaker, calligrapher, illustrator. He worked in Hollywood for years, but he actually hasn't received the recognition he deserved until he was almost in his 90s, mostly because he worked at a time when intolerance for Chinese immigrants was at an all-time high. He drew storyboards for dozens of films between 1930 and 1960, including Rebel Without a Cause and The Sands of Iwo Jima. But Bambi is kind of considered as an artist, essentially his most amazing work. He's responsible for all of the surreal forest appearances. They were inspired by paintings from the Song Dynasty, and Walt Disney personally selected him to be the inspirational sketch artist for the film. But once again, it was the 30s and 40s, and there was a huge strike in 1941, and he was a Chinese American. And despite the fact that he hadn't even participated in the strike, he got fired because of it, because people are assholes. When Bambi actually opened in 1942, the movie was praised for being gorgeous and haunting, and the stills from that movie are still considered practically paintings today. But he was only given a basically near bottom credit of a background artist. Fortunately, before he passed away at the ripe old age of 106, he finally started to get the recognition he deserved. There's actually a couple of documentaries out there about him. There's a retrospective about his work in the Disney Family Museum called Water to Paper, Paint to Sky. And you can definitely go online and see a lot of interviews with him. So it's sad that he has passed away, but this is a chance for a lot of people who were probably really inspired by his talent to learn about who he was and what he did. And if you haven't seen Bambi, go see Bambi. Yes, we all yeah, you know about what Bambi is. Go see it. It's worth watching. Finally, the vast majority of our listeners are wonderful people who tend to be fans of Rooster Teeth. And I think a lot of us go to the RTX Rooster Teeth convention every year, or one of the several that are now popping up all over the place. And we are spoiled. Why are we spoiled, you ask? Well, because a large portion of the people who go to those conventions go as volunteers and make RTX amazing. And they do it for zero money. In fact, they usually have to pay their own way to get there. They're paying for their own hotel. Basically, they get a shirt and a job, and that's about it. And those people do it for the love of the convention, and we are super fortunate that they do it as a volunteer, which is better than, say, if you want to go ahead and work for Phoenix Comic-Con. So Arizona's largest comic convention has closed its doors to strict volunteers. You have to actually pay to become a volunteer. Phoenix Comic-Con and its parent company Square Egg Entertainment have partnered with the Blue Ribbon Army, which is a fan club turned social group, which is registered as an actual non-profit this year. But from now on, anyone who wants to volunteer as a staff member at Phoenix Comic-Con will have to become a paid member of Blue Ribbon Army, which is a membership starting at $20 a year. Phoenix Comic-Con's organizers also laid off 3 directors, including one who's worked there since 2007 as part of the change. Matthew Solberg, convention director of Phoenix Comic-Con, told previous staffers in an email that they're implementing the new system because more and more volunteers were showing up to collect badges without doing the work, and there was no way to prevent it from happening again under the existing structure, end quote. So Phoenix Comic-Con started off pretty small and kind of exploded. When it started back in 2002, there was 400 people who paid $3 to get in. In 2016, it had 100,000 visitors attend. So it's kind of gotten huge. However, it's not the largest one out there by far. It's also not the only one that's grown by far. And it's a little strange to ask your volunteers to pay for the privilege of working. There aren't a lot of organizations in the U.S. that actually charge volunteers. There are a few, but it's a kind of a risky move. It sets a bad precedent. And as far as charity organizations go, it's a comic convention people are paying to go to. Blue Ribbon Army might be a a nonprofit, but Phoenix Comic Con isn't. So I say this not to tell you bad things about Phoenix Comic Con. I tell you this because, once again, most of us are fans of Rooster Teeth and go to RTX. If not, a lot of us have been to a variety of other conventions. The many PAXs out there, San Diego Comic Con, New York City Comic Con, TwitchCon, all these cons that we are familiar with as geeks and geeks who listen to the show are staffed by volunteers, people who know they haven't paid, as it were, as they have to with Phoenix Comic Con, but they spend a lot of time and money and effort to go work and to make our lives awesome. So the next time you're at a convention, tell those people thank you, because you get to have an awesome time because they're working their ass off. That's all for This Week in Geek. I'm Obo Crazy, and yay, 2017!
The world is indeed. If you have a fact you want read, live and on the air, you can send it to Lauren at obocrazy.com. And while you're at it, go to glibshark.com. It's full of all of our content, classic episodes of Late Night Jenga Jam, like the episodes where I had Dr. McNinja artist Christopher Hastings on there, or episodes of the all-time Buttcast, modern Glibshark, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons and Drunks. Glibshark.com, the place our content is located. At this moment, I'd like to turn the floor over to our dear friend, Jonathan.
Got a few things to say. First of all, how was you guys' weekend?
It was
Not too
good.
bad.
I had a lovely time with my husband and Chris and Mary and a few other friends, and I ran a one-shot D&D game for New Year's Eve, and then we ate a lot of good food and talked a lot of good talk and drove through the snow and came home.
Pretty good for me. Spent some time with the family. Bought a car, actually, previous weekend. So my wife has a new Nissan Rogue. Thank you, Star Wars.
And
Did
how
you
about you,
actually
Jonathan?
take advantage of whatever offer they had for Rogue One or whatever?
Oh yeah. They had not to help Nissan too much, but they had 0% financing for towards the end of the year, which is pretty sweet. And they gave us a good deal on the car as well. End of the year is a good time to buy a car in general because most of these dealerships are trying to hit their quotas and everything like that. So they'll tend to discount. They'll sell things at or close to invoice, depending on how well you're able to game it. But my wife's happy and I'm happy, and for reasons that are redacted, everyone else is happy too.
And how about you, Jonathan? How you doing?
Well, New Year's went pretty well. We did the thing where there was a meme going on. I don't know if it was a meme or not, but on Reddit, basically people were giving times for if you start Star Wars at this time locally, the Death Star will blow up at midnight.
Okay,
So
that's pretty
exactly
awesome.
what we did. And we even found the one for the despecialized edition that's been going around. And sure enough, our host got it within about a second of midnight. So we were pretty impressed. That it was a lot of fun. We played some games. We played this one really interesting, like, deductive sort of trader mechanic game, sort of like the Resistance. It's called Insider, but it was different. It's kind of difficult to describe, but that was pretty interesting. The next day, I went over to some friend's house and played a game that's actually made by Riot Games, the people who make League of Legends. It's called Mechs and Minions, and it's a lot of fun because it's a programming game. And there are other programming games out there like Robo Rally and Space Cadets. And all these things where you kind of determine what actions you're going to have, and then shit happens. And so it kind of throws a wrench into things, and you kind of have to adapt on the fly. This game is very much like that, but it's not trying to be like League of Legends, the board game. It's something a little bit different using characters in League of Legends, and that I appreciate. It ended up being a really, really fun game. The box is gorgeous. The bits are gorgeous. It got tons of miniatures. And it's like pretty... For the amount of stuff you get, it's relatively inexpensive. Like, my buddy was telling me, and this is something I'd heard from other people who were into the game, that it could easily have been like a $100, $150 game.
Oof.
And it clocks in at around $70.
That's not too bad considering how much it could have been.
Yeah.
For what you get, it's phenomenal. Like, I was really impressed with the production value of this game. It's very clear that the designers, who are Riot employees, so people who had worked on League of Legends, are board game fans and wanted to go and make a really, really good game. And they did. They succeeded, which not a lot of people do. I mean, as much as people put passion and work into their projects, sometimes they're just not good. And this one is pretty good. So that was fun. We did that on Monday, which, okay, I don't understand. Like, so I had Monday off, this last Monday off, and I know a lot of people did. But I don't understand why we didn't get Christmas off. Or, I'm sorry, the Monday after Christmas off. Because that was the Christmas day observed, and we still had to come into work. It was very odd, because then the next week, for New Year's Day observed, we didn't have to come into work.
I think it was probably just a company by company thing.
But no, my point is that why would you do one and not the other?
No, that's
why not
weird.
do both?
I mean, staffing.
But it's like, I don't understand why you would have people come in the day Christmas is observed. FedEx wasn't operating. Banks weren't operating. I took one contact all day. I talked to one customer, and that was it. And they let me go at noon. So I can't complain too much because I only had half a day. But it's baffling that anyone had to show up.
Yeah, it's one of those decisions that's made so high up based on. I mean, usually they try to moneyball this thing. Like, they'll have a whole bunch of. I mean, everyone says they make data-driven decisions, right? Like, they'll have a spreadsheet that says, oh, X amount of people will call in X amount of days, so we probably need to be open this day, but this day not so much.
But I guess my issue is what's different about the 2 days. They were both. In fact, if you wanted us to come in at any point, the Monday after New Year's, since this was after all the holidays, would have made more sense. I mean, the Monday after Christmas, that's the Monday after Christmas, and two, it's right smack in the middle of that dead week where everyone's gone.
Yeah.
It's totally illogical to me.
A lot of things companies do are illogical at best.
No, but that's not exactly true though, because it's like Jack said, there's planning with these things, and I've seen mistakes made with planning, but this just I think someone legit made a mistake, and I don't get their thinking.
It's possible they made a mistake, but I will say, and I'm not talking about any job in specific, and it's not one that I have worked, but it's, let's say, a job that a very close person to me has worked in the past, has a regularly scheduled busy time of the month. And by regularly scheduled, I mean they know that it's going to happen. It happens every single month. And the end of the year is also, everyone knows it's going to be super busy. The first of the month and the first of the year. And yet the scheduling of that time every single month, and now the beginning of the year, is completely done on the fly, last minute, and often changes as the day goes on based on the whims and the people who happen to be in charge, and where one person will make a decision about who works what and gets what overtime and insists everybody does it, and then the next day everybody will get yelled at for doing that. And this is a company that's been around for a very long time and knows that these cycles happen. It's never a surprise, but they react and schedule for it as if it's a surprise every single time. And this is a company that seems to be profitable. And once again, not talking about any company in specific, but
you'll have to tell me about that one offline, because I'm curious.
Yes. Oh, it's annoying.
But I get, and like I said, it's just, if you were to pick one of the 2 days, day after Christmas or day after New Year's, you're going to work one, I would have picked the day after New Year's. Because that to me is the, like you said, the first of the month, not in between the two biggest holidays of the year, and pretty much everyone agrees that time, that weekend between Christmas and New Year's, totally fucking useless. You can't get a hold of anyone. Everyone's on vacation. So you're either on vacation or you're working in the office, and you can't do much. I think every day of that week last week, I worked a half a day.
Yeah, and if
that's how not busy it was.
And that's with a week between the two holidays that was a full quote unquote work week. This is the it's not rare, but it doesn't happen nearly as often in where you're not having days off during a normal work week. You could conceivably have had a business that was open Monday through Friday, normal business hours, and still had off for the holidays. So the fact that all went down is a little sucky.
Well, anyway, I worked half days. I got to burn off a bunch of vacation that I had accidentally accumulate, so that was good. On Saturday, and this is one of the other things I wanted to talk about. I saw La La Land.
Oh, I've heard very good things.
Same.
I will say, I loved the music itself. The actual composed music was brilliant. It was a gorgeous movie. Absolutely beautiful. Just very well shot. It's one of those classic every frame is a photograph, and it's very true in this case. Supremely crafted movie. I think it's highly overrated.
Interesting. Okay.
And so we're gonna get into slight spoilers here, and I hesitate doing this because I don't want to wave anyone off seeing the movie. I think it's getting a lot of attention, undue attention, when people are putting it on their year-end lists and all that stuff. So I'm not gonna spoil any particular plot points of the movie. I'll just say, as I've said, the music was great. The actual way it was filmed was awesome and just absolutely beautiful. I will say that personally, I thought the dancing was really good. My wife has danced in the past, and she did not care for the dancing. Especially between the stars, Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling. She thought that they seemed coddled. That their choreography really wasn't that hard. That's not a criticism I can make because I'm not a dancer. The criticism I can make, though, is that Ryan Gosling cannot sing. And it shows. Like, if you remember Moulin Rouge, Ewan McGregor can't sing.
Yeah.
But you know what? They vocal coached the fuck out of him. And he sang out loud and strong and not the best. Definitely not the best. But he made his presence known. When he hits the note on "I Will Always Love You," when he and Nicole Kidman are singing at each other, that was great. Yes, I could tell he wasn't a professional singer, and he would never be. But he gave it his all, and he put his entire chest into it. It was really good.
You could tell he, like you said, trained like crazy, and they maybe had to do some post-production too on it. But yeah, like I had no problems with his singing in that movie.
Ryan Gosling doesn't do that.
Oh.
His voice is very thin. He sings an octave lower probably than he should, and it's very airy. And so it's very strange because that's Ryan Gosling's like entire performance. He does dance and he does play the piano. Like he actually plays the piano, which is great. I appreciate that. I just wish they had spent more time bringing him up as a singer to get him to the point where he could carry these tunes by himself. And I think that affected other musical decisions about the film because Emma Stone, who was recently in Chicago, and at the end of the movie has a great number where she's singing very well. Oftentimes, from what I can assume, is directed to sound more airy and more light to kind of match what Ryan Gosling can do. And that really brings it down, especially when it's songs that they're both singing with each other. because I guess they didn't want Emma Stone to overpower him, then both of them come off as very weak voices. And there were even numbers where I know this was a very, very faithful tribute to like classical musicals, but it had a modern twist sort of. And I think that's why a lot of people are giving it as much credit as they are, because it is something that's a tribute but also new. It's not a sequel, it's not a comic book movie, and so people are heaping a lot of praise. But one thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that, especially during one number where it's just Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling dancing, and I know that happened in a lot of classic musicals where the two stars would just have numbers where they danced. That happened so often that I felt like at some of those numbers they should be singing, and they weren't. One of the signature tunes and a melody that I really like, "City of Stars," Ryan Gosling whistles through it, and that's really good. And as soon as he starts singing, it's like, I can't get into this. And so it's hard for me. I can recommend the movie. Just be prepared for some disappointment in Ryan Gosling's part. And don't let that totally drive you off from seeing the movie. Because like I said, the choreography is beautiful. The way it looks is beautiful. The tunes you will hum afterward. You will want to find the soundtrack. Because and this is really weird. I think this would be much better as an actual stage musical with actual Broadway performers, and maybe more numbers with the two leads, whoever they may be. So, I want to endorse this movie, but I can't completely. I did like it, but it's not going to be making any top film list from 2016.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of really good things about this movie, and it's been I've been happy to hear about that because as a musician myself, the number of full-on musicals that we get put out a year or even every couple of years is very, very rare. We're seeing a lot more of that on TV. What is it, ABC or Fox that's been doing the? We're now going to do the Wizard of Oz live in front of
NBC, I think.
NBC. Okay,
I think so.
Yeah,
they've done like Sound of Music and Grease, I think.
yeah.
They did The Wiz too, yeah.
They did the Wiz. They've done a bunch of musicals, so that it almost seems like that's moved on to the TV realm. There are some really good modern musical adaptations for the screen out there. I mean, Chicago continues to be one of the best versions of that story. You know, whether it's on screen, on stage, wherever. But I think what pegs it is, you know, what you talked about with Ryan Gosling. It is obvious that they either find current stars who have musical theater background and they can sing, dance, and act, or they find stars who are willing to put in the work to get to the level that they need to keep up with the other people. You know, Richard Gere worked his ass off to be able to do what he needed to do in Chicago next to Renee Zellweger and Catherine Zeta-Jones, because the two of them were friggin' fantastic. Well, and everybody in that movie is. So it's heartening that they're trying to do more original stuff and not just, oh, Into the Woods is really popular, and so we're going to get a bunch of people to do Into the Woods or Les Miserables. You know, I like that they're leaving behind established musicals and trying to do new stuff right on the screen, because I still think some of those old musicals are amazing and would love a renaissance in that. But yeah, if they're not willing to find real musical theater professionals or at least actors who have that background, and there's plenty, there's so many.
And that's what's really frustrating, because like I said, I do like Ryan Gosling. I really like Ryan Gosling. I loved him in Drive. I think that I'm trying to find somewhere to watch Only God Forgives, because he has some, from what I understand, some pretty intense fight scenes in that. So I like the man, and I like what he's done, but this just wasn't a strong performance for him, and it sucks. And it sucks because it also brought down Emma Stone, who I also like, who we know, having recently been in Chicago, can sing and
Has the
dance.
chops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you still enjoyed it, and it's interesting to hear a review that is not just, oh my god, this is going to win all of the awards ever for all time.
It should win. It should win cinematography because that was amazing. Although Rogue One, frankly, should give it a run for its money. Again, Rogue One is probably going to give it a run for its money in score. Although I think it can beat Rogue One. It's a phenomenal little set of music. It's great. But I think as far as acting, maybe Emma Stone. I think you might throw her into the mix just because she does an amazing job. And quite frankly, like I think this role is well suited, at least for the character's sort of motivations and his demeanor, is well suited for Ryan Gosling. It's just he couldn't sing, and that's important for a musical.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get away on some parts doing the talky singy thing, but in general, if you're going to be in a musical, you got to be able to sing. You got to do it.
This is literally what he sounds like in one of the songs. He's like, "City of stars, are you shining just for me tonight?" And even that's a little bit better, and I'm fucking sick. When it should, if he had taken it up an octave and sung out like, "City of stars, are you shining just for me tonight?" I mean, that's easier to understand. It's louder. It's better. But he just couldn't sustain it.
That's at least dinner theater level, Jonathan.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
But now I get what you're saying. Like, I haven't seen it yet. I have been hearing a lot of the buzz about it, but musicals are a tricky thing. I mean, it's something you don't see a whole lot of, so it's always that delicate balancing act of finding the actor or actresses who bring in people into the box office. Because if you just do straight Broadway people, there's maybe one or two names you can actually get enough interest in to make your money back. But if it's like, Broadway people, most people don't know who's on Broadway. But I
unless your name is Lin-Manuel Miranda,
right?
And even he acknowledged on Saturday Night Live that it's like, "Hi, I'm Lin-Manuel Miranda, and a lot of you probably don't know who I am."
Yeah,
you've all got one friend who's freaking out right now, and the rest of you have no clue.
And or Kristen Chenoweth, I guess. I don't know if she's like big name, but she's been around enough that people might recognize it, even if they don't follow theater.
Well,
Bernadette
you look
Peters.
at the original cast of Rent, like Taye Diggs and the guy from Law and Order and now The Flash, and
Jesse Martin.
Yeah.
Jesse, yes, and the original cast of Rent, all of whom went on to do other stuff. I mean, hell, the one dude in glasses was in fucking School Ties.
Right. But this is all like, what, 20, 25 years ago? I meant like today's crop of like mainstream Broadway.
I don't know that Kristen Chenoweth is today's crop. I think she would have been today's crop.
She would have been 10 years ago.
10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Well,
so like people like Christopher. Well, I'm only gonna name like fucking Hamilton people.
Right.
But like Jeffrey Goff and Christopher Jackson and all those guys who are brilliant. And I can only fucking name.
I'm just impressed that we managed to mention Ryan Gosling without me making a young Hercules joke.
Yes,
damn it! What have I done?
Very quickly. No, and I will throw Bernadette Peters out there again as someone who is mostly made her career on being a musical theater actress, but has done enough work on stage, on screen, both in TV and in movies, that I think of the vast majority of the public, if they don't recognize her name, would recognize her face, but they might not know that, in between doing Mozart in the Jungle and all the other stuff that she does, she appears all the time on Broadway and is amazing. And that's where she got both her start and continues to.
She's ageless.
She kind of is. She has such a unique voice that under any other circumstance, she might have never made it on Broadway, but she has molded that into something so powerful. The other person I'm thinking, and I feel bad because I never remember her name, even though I played for her once. Lilith from Cheers. Oh God,
Maybe Newirth.
Baby Newirth.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Baby Newirth. Once again, if I say Lilith from Cheers, at least people of our generation, they know who that is. BB Newirth was, and still kind of is, an amazing Broadway actress. She is a triple threat, sings, dance, acts, does amazing Candor and Ebb stuff, can drop Chicago, all the female parts like nobody's business. She'd be another one. But, once again, who I'm pulling out of are these old school musical theater gods who managed one way or another to get screen and TV roles, but have continued to do musicals. So, yeah, oh God, why not take the cast of Hamilton as they slowly leave to go do other things and nab them up and put them in another musical, but on the screen? Why not have La La Land done by the cast of Hamilton?
That would be so good. Like that would be amazing. And you don't like Jack was saying, you don't have to look far for actors that can do this. So I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense, but we should probably move on because it was an exercise in somewhat disappointment. Like I said, it just did so many things so well, and the music is awesome. I was listening to it on the way home from a buddy's place yesterday, and I was just like, oh, it's so good.
Listen, I'll throw out another old school example of, I know exactly what you're talking about. Pirates of Penzance is one of my favorite musicals, operettas, operas, whatever you want to call it, of all time. And probably the best version recorded of that is the Kevin Kline version. Yeah, Kevin Kline. There's another guy, got his start in musical theater. They did he was famous on, it was him and Rex Smith and Linda Ronstadt were the big three who did Pirates of Penzance before any of them were known outside of doing stuff on musical theater. And they actually recorded a movie version of Pirates of Penzance with the vast majority of the original Broadway cast, including Kevin Kline and Linda Ronstadt, and it's amazing. Except for whatever reason, Ruth is played by Angela Lansbury. And I know a lot of people love Angela Lansbury. And I think she is a wonderful person. She can't sing. She cannot sing. She can't sing. She's not a singer. I don't know why people love her in Beauty and the Beast. She is clearly not only the weakest of everybody in this cast, but it's just amazingly obvious on some of the patter songs, because if you've heard any Gilbert and Sullivan, they do these quick, fast songs that are basically tongue twisters. They're kind of the old school musical version of what nowadays might actually be a rap. And the technical fluidity that's needed in order to say rap really well it's the same kind of just incredible technical prowess you need on a patter song. If you can't sing, it's 100% obvious. And there's one that Rex Smith and Kevin Kline and Angela Lansbury do together that Angela Lansbury just fails miserably at. I mean, to the point where the other two do the whole verse that they have to do all in one breath, which is hard to do, but they do it. And she has to take several breaths, and it's painful. So yeah, but I think what you can take from this is that that is still in my heart of hearts, one of my most favorite things to listen to. Listening to Kevin Kline sing about being a pirate, or just basically almost anything else on that soundtrack, is the best thing ever of all time. Was there anything else, Jonathan, you wanted to talk about? You seem to indicate that you might have several topics to rant about, or have we covered them?
Oh, no, I ain't done. Fuck USC for making the Sugar Bowl viewing late last night. Their game versus Penn State ran long. And so we didn't tune into the Sooners until I think it was 8 o'clock our time. So fuck USC for for daring to come back. Although I will say their kicker, who had missed 2 kicks that game and made 2, got a chance to win the game for USC and did. So that was kind of cool. One thing that did happen in the game, in the Sugar Bowl, it was OU versus Auburn. And I've probably talked about him before, but OU has a running back right now named Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon is famous for having gotten into an altercation with a young lady at a local Norman restaurant and punching her out. Now, this was caught on video, and as soon as I heard about this incident, I'm like, I'm done with Joe Mixon. No one has the right to hit anyone else. And if you are as highly trained an athlete as Joe Mixon is, you're pretty fucking strong. Way stronger than any woman you can come in contact with. And
Maybe
if
not
you
Ronda
are,
Rousey.
he is way stronger than Ronda Rousey. Like, way stronger.
Anyway, sorry. Sorry.
Anyway, but so when you get to, as a man, it's always, you have to use measured force, right? Like, I would never hit a woman, not even Ronda Rousey, because a lot of times, 1, hitting people is just bad, and 2, there's sexual dichotomy, right? I mean, women are weaker than men. It's just how we work. And when you get to a certain point, you have to consider that if I utilize physical violence, I could seriously hurt someone. And if you are so immature and so coddled that you don't have any sense of that, fuck you. And that's exactly what happened with Joe Mixon. A girl got in his face, and he punched her. And they released the video not too long ago because the press was going to release it anyway. So Joe Mixon's lawyer released it. And as a consequence of that, Joe Mixon sat out a season. They just redshirted him, so it really didn't make a difference. And he had to do like 100 hours of community service or whatever. So during the game last night, Joe Mixon makes a play. And I don't enjoy watching Joe Mixon. I hate it when they put him on the field. I'll get to someone who I would much prefer be on the field and get more attention, and who is actually on the stream right now. I'll get to Samaje Perine in just a bit. But Brent Musburger gets up and he says, "Oh yeah, Joe Mixon. He's just one of the best. I really hope that he has learned his lesson and will continue his career into the NFL." And I'm sitting there going, "Wait, what? Did he just say that? Like, why? Why would we hope that for this guy?" I'm not going to say that I hope for everything bad for Joe Mixon, even though I kind of do, because I'm petty. But why wish that someone who is clearly not responsible and just all around a shitty person, why would you hope that they learned their lesson and he learns it in the NFL? Why not just say, I hope he's learned his lesson? I understand that the NFL isn't the end all be all, and for a lot of people it doesn't work out. But it's also a really good opportunity for people. And why would you want that sort of opportunity for a motherfucker like Joe Mixon? I don't get it. And I wasn't apparently the only one. Our good friend Grady tweeted pretty much the same thing, and there was a whole conversation on it. Like, people had heard that and were like, that is a really, really weird thing to say. Musburger today talked about it more. It was like, oh, I am a sucker for like second chances, and I always root for people in their second chances. Motherfucker shouldn't have needed a second chance. He shouldn't have hit a girl. He shouldn't have hit anyone.
I think the lesson
I'll say you and Grady weren't the only people who showed up in any of my social media feeds saying about the same thing. You guys are not alone.
Yeah. But the lesson that I've taken from 2016 is that people can turn a blind eye to anything.
Yep.
So I am turning a not very blind eye to this man, Samaje Perine. He just recently set the OU rushing record. By all accounts, he is a peerless gentleman. and I've heard this from local media ever since he started playing for the Sooners. He conducts himself extremely well in interviews. He is always polite. He calls reporters sir. And people who he considers to be adults in his eyes. His career has been a little bit spotty because of injuries, which is really unfortunate. But if you're going to take a Sooner running back, and say, you know what, I hope that guy has success in the NFL, Samaje Perine is your guy. And I really, and Samaje, if you're listening, doubtful that you are, but if you're listening, in like 4 or 5 years, please don't make me eat my words. Continue to be an awesome guy, and continue to be the person that you have clearly demonstrated that you are. Samaje Perine, folks.
I like this. I like that you've managed to take the lesson of one asshole and take something positive out of it by finding somebody else essentially in the same role who has shown a respect for the position and a respect for other people and celebrated that person. I appreciate that you've done that. Because yeah, I think assholes, like, you know, anyone who's going to punch somebody else for trivial matters, I think the less we give those people time in our lives, the better off we are, and the more we give people, like, say his name again, just so I know I get it correct.
Samaje Perine.
Samaje Perine. I have no interest whatsoever in sports or your sports career, but I'm going to look you up because you sound like a decent guy.
Welcome to the Glib Shark Hall of Fame, Samaje Perine.
As of January of 2017, if you go on and punch somebody, we will be super upset and take you away.
Oh,
but
my
for
God.
For the moment, you're an
like,
awesome, as of this recording, you're an awesome gentleman, and we salute
It's like
you.
the people who are like, oh man, Ray Rice. That guy is a stand-up dude. Oh, man. Isn't he great, Ray Rice?
Yeah. This promising young comedian out of Philadelphia named Bill Cosby. Too soon.
Temple's finest. Not really. I'm sorry.
No, it's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're.
Well, I'm a Temple guy.
You're a Nova guy.
That's right. Although my mom worked at Temple, my Temple graduate, as was my sister, as is my brother-in-law, as is several members of my family, actually.
Our
This
teammate,
is my father and my father's father.
Oh yeah, Carlton Tanks.
Carlton Tanks.
That's right. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I feel like recognizing that good behavior, like, it sort of parallels something in another podcast I listened to, the Bruce Lee podcast, which is hosted by Shannon Lee, of course, Bruce Lee's youngest daughter. And they have a segment at the end called Awesome Asians and Happas. Happas are apparently half Asians, half or Pacific Islander, or half Asian, half white, or something like that. I forget what it is. But they highlight that because the people don't get like platforms otherwise. And I thought it'd be cool to like have a spotlight segment where you're like, hey, this dude is out there doing good. So good on you, Samaje P. Henson.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wish I had more awesome people to bring to doing that segment, but you know, I try to throw them in on This Week in Geek more often than not often when they die.
I may have just accidentally cough dabbed. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Oh, man.
To everyone out there,
So,
I failed.
So let me tell you something about this weekend that I left out. So we had our Sunday school program, and it's really cool. Like, one of my friends, the one who did the choir for our wedding, his daughter and his son performed, and they played Eagle Eye Cherry's Save Tonight, and it was on like he was playing guitar along with them, but the younger son was playing like drums, like Indian style drums. And at the end, he did this sort of drum solo thing, and then he dabbed at the end of it at the last note, and it was like the most baller ass thing I had ever seen. So good on you, Junior. Good on you.
I got totally distracted a couple of days ago watching YouTube videos about weird and awesome giant low instruments, like even bigger than the contrabassoon, and giant tubas, and you should all just go onto YouTube and go look